the fancy $15 waffles that you get at the fancy places.
So where are the best waffles?
I'm trying to think. When you played football and we used to stay at all the different hotels when we traveled.
Woo!
Are you dying?
Relax. Just stick with your waffle question.
They always used to have like $20 a person buffets.
Oh, at the hotels?
Yeah. They had pretty good waffles. I was going to say Disney, but that's not true. They're just in the shape of Mickey Mouse. And they're actually overcooked.
Well, I mean, saying shape does not matter.
No. Where's the best waffle you've ever had? The best pancakes is Cracker Barrel.
I would agree with that. They're fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Butter.
And
lard. I guarantee you they use lard.
No.
What? Yes.
I wonder if it's a type, because I've experimented with flour. Are we recording right now?
We are.
Okay. I've experimented with different types of flour. I've done like cake flour to give it like a higher rise. I have done AP flour. I've done almond. You
think that the Cracker Barrel was using pea flour?
No, I said so AP, all-purpose flour.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like ground peas.
No.
That sounds horrific.
No, I've done the keto pancakes with almond flour and coconut flour. I've done whole wheat flour. And I've also experimented with the different amounts of baking powder for a rise. Like more crepe-like versus... Because like I'm...
Like a really thin pancake.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty particular. It's just always in the back of my head. Because my grandpa was a tiny little man. But the only time he'd ever get really angry, like visibly angry at my grandma or in a restaurant, was if they brought him thick pancakes. He would send them back.
Bob would?
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's the only time he'd ever get mad. Like it's like stuck in my brain. So like that thick pancakes are bad. Like too thick for him. And so, but I like a thick fluffy pancake. But for him, it was like, no, a pancake is like a certain
thickness. And this is more than 6.5 millimeters thick.
Yes. Like
swill.
It was. Like he would send them back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're recording in the morning, which obviously, Amy's still in her blankie. So if you are watching this episode, you get to fully appreciate not being awake. And then obviously breakfast items are on our mind.
Yes, because I said I wanted waffles.
Yeah.
And then you asked me where the best waffles were. And I couldn't think other than, again, like I said, is the super expensive hotel buffets that I would go to with your parents when you played football.
Yeah.
They're way too expensive for what you got. But they have pretty good waffles. And then I couldn't think of anywhere in particular that had the best waffles. But I could know the best pancakes, which is Cracker Barrel.
Man, you've given us a full rundown.
Mm-hmm.
That was very good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
These are important questions.
Indeed. What is your morning routine? So what are you always drinking in your glass? Because you don't drink coffee.
Okay, so I have a problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bad problem.
We're ready to air this out for everybody to be able to hear.
I don't like talking.
I don't like it.
No, so, okay, first of all, becoming Mormon, so to speak, that's going to be like chapter 4 in my autobiography is Becoming Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't hard for me because like this, I remember the sit down with the missionaries where it must be like a thing where like you go over essentially the things you can't have, so to speak, of like Mormons don't drink coffee, they don't drink tea, they don't smoke, they don't get tattooed, like all these things.
All the don'ts.
Mm-hmm. for most of society, I think not drinking coffee and not drinking tea is like a very big deal, like a deal, downright deal breaker for a lot of people. And I'm like, yeah, that's no problem. Because I hate those things. Like, I'm very unpicky. The only foods, too, really, that I don't like are pickles and olives. I'll use olive oil. But, like, I don't like the olive flavor. Olives and pickles, that's it. But when it comes to drinks, it's like 92% of all beverages I don't like.
You're like your 4-year-old.
Yes.
Like you and Henry are kindred spirits because it's anything that, like, the beverage
is disgusting.
You're just like, this is...
Yeah. Yes. So I don't like milk. I don't like tea, hot or cold.
It's probably quicker if you just say what you do like.
It is.
To be honest.
And I don't drink alcohol. I've gone over this a million times. There's a myriad of reasons why I don't drink, but a big one is because it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's all disgusting. And I don't like coffee. I can handle coffee if you make it, because it's a very specific way. Like, you make the Swedish coffee. Yeah,
the Swedish immigrant coffee.
Which doesn't use a filter. It uses like eggshells.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we a few years ago got the opportunity to get like a percolator that was one of your
it's been in my family
grandmother's
for way too long.
But the reality is when I looked it up, it's not like it was.
No, but it was.
But it was cool, right? It was a super cool thing.
It belonged to my great grandmother,
right? And it was awesome. It was percolator. It was ceramic,
and it was written in Swedish. I don't know what it said in Swedish, but
yeah, I remember I looked it up, and it was like coffee is the heart to the soul, or something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. Window to the soul. But it was cool. So like Swedish things. So I'm like, all right, let's look up like Swedish coffee, right? And like how to make it. And so what actually came up was a Swedish immigrant coffee. And so this actually ended up being like a popular way of making coffee when you're on like the 4-week boat trip. So this was like German Americans, Dutch Americans, Swedish Americans, like folks that came over and were immigrants. So it's not necessarily something, it isn't something that is done like in Sweden.
No.
But it was done specifically by those folks that were immigrating over here.
On the boat.
And so why that's relevant. So they don't have, right, there are no filters.
Of course.
And pretty much all you're rocking is, a large pot where everybody wants to make coffee for everybody that was on the boat. And so what they had were chickens. And then they had, of course, was coffee, like actual coffee beans. And so the way that you broke it down was that if you take an egg and you throw the whole egg in with the coffee beans and a little bit of water. And what you do is you make like a slurry and you throw it in. The actual like egg white and egg yolk combines to all the coffee grounds.
Oh, and that's what egg does in your recipes is it helps to congeal.
It looks like, if you make it right, the way I deem correct.
It's not.
Or like batter. It looks like pancake batter. Realistically speaking, it's black, but it's that same consistency as pancake batter. But so you mix all the water and the egg together, and what the eggshell does is it takes away the acidity of coffee. So if you have somebody that's like, I don't like coffee because of that acidity, or it hurts like your stomach or whatever it is. And then the one thing that filters, like the paper filters do, if you go through like a standard like Mr. Coffee Maker, is that the filter takes away all the oil. So if you get like coffee beans, they're very oily, especially like the darker the bean. And so you lose all that oil through the filter. And so this style you don't, because all you do is have a pot of, you can do it with a pot. And this is another way to do coffee if like you're camping as well. But you have, so all we bought was like this thing. I made it this morning. So like it's just a percolator.
Like for camping.
For camping. Yeah. And all you do is start boiling the water, combine all the coffee grounds, the egg and eggshell and water, and then once it starts to boil, you drop that slurry into it. And the thing that's really groovy, because it's like all the sciencey stuff that they're just like, well, this is just what you do.
Apparently, Swedish immigrants were like, let's just take some eggs and some coffee and mix it together and we'll
combine it together. And so what it ends up happening is because all the coffee grounds combine together, as you boil it and then let it kind of simmer for a minute, then if you add cold water sinks all that combined coffee ground to the bottom of the pot. And then all you have at the top is coffee. Mm-hmm. And so the coffee is really different. So that's what you're talking about, where it's like it's a lighter color than normal. It's really oily.
It's like naturally creamy.
Exactly.
And that's the only way that I like. If we go out to get coffee for you, definitely like I would. This is gonna sound rude, but I buy coffee like I'm buying for a child. It needs to be sweet. It needs to have there can't be any hints of bitterness. Heavy cream. Yes.
Chocolate probably has been added to it.
Yes, but that's
right. That's whatever.
That's the only way that it's moderately.
Your routine does not involve coffee in any way.
So this was whatever it was years ago when we were trying to break from like soda, because I'll have a soda. I've gotten worse with it this last year, but like I had pretty much written off soda because it ended up tasting like cough syrup the more I stepped away from it. So I can have a soda now, and root beer's my favorite, but I can't like more than that, and it's too gross. So all of these things are taken away. So when we were trying to like ward off soda years ago, I switched to Crystal Light to kind of still have a flavored water beverage. And now
then something amazing happened, which was Crystal Light came out with Crystal Light with caffeine.
Yes. And we, for a while last year too, got rid of caffeine. Or was that 2 years ago? Maybe
it was 2 years ago, yeah. And it was cool because like one of the groups that we followed was Strong Fit, and they were kind of doing like a no fix November was a challenge that they did where it was like, no drugs, no alcohol,
no sugar,
no
caffeine,
no fun,
no alcohol,
all November.
Yeah. But, and I will tell you, because I don't drink, I maybe drink the equivalent of 1, maximum 2 cups of coffee a day in caffeine content, like max. But once we started weaning off of it, for sure I was very tired for like a couple days.
Yeah. And
then I got used to it. So I was still drinking Crystal Light. I just was drinking the regular Crystal Light in the morning. But then also I've noticed, and you and I have discussed this a million times, is that like the seasons of our business, as I can do that in the winter pretty easily. But in the summer, because we are staying up, so my body is so deeply interconnected with circadian rhythm. So in the winter, I will hibernate. Yeah. Like if it's dark at 5, I literally could go to bed at 6 p.m. and not wake up until the next day when the sunlight comes out.
Right.
I have a very hard time waking up before the sun. I do it because I'm an early riser, and I'm more productive before 8 a.m. than I am the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. But in the summer, when it's dark till 9 and then light at 5:30, like my hours drastically change because it doesn't matter if I go to bed at midnight. Once the sun comes up in the morning, I'm up, so I get a lot less sleep. So I go back on caffeine in the summer. But what was the point? So when I weaned off caffeine, it sucked for a few days, and then I adapted, and then I was totally fine and was completely off of it for a little while. And then I remember one morning in particular, I did not sleep well, and I got up to work out, and I was like, holy shit, I'm not gonna make it. I need to. And I had the Crystal Light with caffeine, which is the 60 milligrams caffeine, which is like a cup of coffee.
Right.
And I felt jacked.
The second it hits your lips.
It was like, I can go like lift a car right now. Do you want to go run a marathon? We can do all the things like right now. So it was
all the fitnessing.
It was yes, it was crazy how much it affected me. But anyway, so I have a Crystal Light in the morning. It's a very long way of saying, but I it's not good. And
you're an addict.
Yeah, I am an
addict.
Like
I can definitely, like your parent, especially your dad, like he's definitely an addict when it comes to coffee.
Yeah.
Right? Like coffee, it's more than just that routine. And it's what makes anything addictive, right? Is definitely it's part of a routine. It's part of a habit structure. And then there's also an addictive drug that's involved as well. And so that's caffeine. Caffeine and sugar are sometimes the things that we don't think about the most when it comes to like addictive substances. And your dad definitely is just like, coffee is a must. And I think there's a lot of folks that are that way. Coffee I'll drink, but definitely when I switch to like decaf, for me it was just the ritual of doing.
And I think that's actually for a lot of people. I think if people would give decaf a try, because I think so much of like, oh, I need coffee. There is a component of caffeine that gets you going. Yeah. But it's like my chiropractor, she talks about, she's like, I am addicted. She goes, and I know I'm addicted real bad. Yeah. Because she goes, I can drink a pot of coffee before I go to bed and it does nothing. She goes, I can have 12 shots of espresso and I don't feel a thing. She goes, at this point, literally, I have to have coffee all day long to ward off the headaches. Ugh. She's like, I would need to take time off work if I was going to stop drinking coffee. Yeah. Because it's that bad. But the way she's describing it too, obviously she's addicted to the caffeine and she goes through withdrawals and gets the headaches if she doesn't have it. But it's from what she's describing, it's the experience. And I think for my dad too, that's the thing. It's like, it is part of the ritual.
Oh, for sure.
Whether, for me, like you could argue making my bed is now an addiction because it is part of the routine in the morning. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do it, it gravely bothers me.
Oh yeah. Like the other day, I was working and you're like, can you make the bed? I was like, yes. And I swear you came back 2.5 minutes later and you were like, are you going to make the bed? Yes. I haven't finished writing the email that I was still writing as you came and asked the first time. I swear to you,
it was longer than 2 minutes. But yes, no, it's so you. But that, I think for a lot of people, that is what coffee is. There's the addictive component with caffeine, but I think for them, it's just I am up and I hate my life, and this is warm and apparently delicious for a lot of people. But like it's soothing. Like, it's like the blankie for adults.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. It's so many components that it's just like, I need this close to my body.
And it's warm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's warm and it's soothing and it's tasty for them. And it is. And then they tie that association with, this is what I do when I wake up.
Right. Yeah, and that's where, like, adding any new habit, one of the things, I think I saw you... so you do the social media for our Instagram account for the business, and that's at It's Possible VS, right? V as in victory.
Did we screw that up? Is Tyler mad at us?
No, his point is, so Amy is referencing, so I got to be on our friend and guy that we work with and colleague and all the things, right? Everything that's included in what he is he has a great podcast that's really foul. And I highly don't recommend any of you listen to it. So I've done all that prefacing. It's an awesome podcast. I love it. Mm-hmm. But don't go and listen to it if you're a bitch.
If you're Karen.
Yeah, like if you and both of those regrettably are both female references of like bitch and Karen. But if you're just a really like, and again, cunty.
What's the male version of Karen? Kevin?
But I like a lot of Kevins though.
Kevin is kind of a cunty name, though. Like, if you were going to equate it, like, if someone's like, hi, my name's Kevin, it's like, oh, you're one of those. I can see that.
Kevin, really? I think so. I'm more of maybe like Caleb.
Oh, no, Caleb is a Larry.
Larry.
Do you know any good Larrys?
Newman would be a cunty name, because it's the only thing from Seinfeld. It's like, hello, Newman.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But wasn't that his last name?
Who the fuck knows?
Boys do go by last names a lot more than
for
girls.
Sure, but okay. that comes from sports. But no, if you're an all around shitty person, you can't take a joke, and if the word cunt bothers you, definitely don't listen to this podcast. Anyway, I got to be on the podcast because we got to go meet, and we talked about this in our last episode when we were from one of the nicest La-Quinta Inns that we've ever been in, where we got to record out of. But we got to be on Tyler's podcast. And so that's the reference, is that while we were going over, like, you do your social media handles and tell people where they can go find you. And definitely Tyler was like, oh God, really? Like when we said, like, it's possible VS is our handle. His thing is like, try and make it as simple as possible. And we're consistent across the board. So he's just like, well, you did that like before the podcast course, because Tyler has like help you start your own podcasting course. They teaches people kind of like the basics of what to do. And ultimately for me, it was like, it's possible virtual solutions is really fucking long. Like that whole phrase. So I'm like, we got to figure out something. And it's possible was already taken. So anyway, it's possible VS, you do the social media for us. And I saw you referenced one of Lauren Golden's things, which is like the Daily 5. And so, God, I can't remember what I was saying. What the point was. I was just getting back to this because you had said something that triggered it for me. But it was like the Daily 5 of the Daily 5 things that you do. What is the Daily 5? It's worth mentioning. So you start there, and then hopefully it'll jog my memory.
So, and I don't know if she came up with it, but she for sure is the first person for it. Yeah, big proponent for it. Is that everybody has to-do lists, and there's people that either procrastinate and don't do anything, or like the type A people that it's like, I must write down everything I need to do in the next like decade. And the problem with to-do lists is that they become a mile long, and there's no priority that is established within the to-do list. It's just all these things must be done. The problem, and she coaches moms. So she's the founder of the Free Mama movement, which basically teaches moms how to do business from home. And because 99% of household chores and maintenance fall to mom and childcare, it's your to-do list can get out of control really quickly. So the Daily 5 helps you establish with the sense of priority the top 5 things that must get done today, and you are not allowed to go to number 2 until number 1 is completed.
Right.
And if you don't get to those 5, whatever you didn't finish that day becomes like say you only get number 1, 2, and 3 done. Mm-hmm. Number 4 would become your number 1 for the next day.
Sure.
So it's listed in order of priority. So as opposed to just, mindlessly checking off laundry was on my to-do list, so I'll do laundry. And it takes you away from the things you need to actually get done.
Yeah, you try and be busy being busy.
You be busy being busy, and then you become bogged down, and then nothing actually gets done. I suffer from this greatly. But it helps you where it's just like, no, even if you don't want to do it and you only get one thing done today, it's the one thing that you have been putting off that needs to get done.
Yeah, it's what actually had to get done today.
Right. So it's a priority planner. It is life-changing. Like people that have incorporated it, I can't tell you how many posts all the time that are in her movement that are like, this has saved my soul.
Yeah.
But
and I remember what I was going to say was, and we talked about like the habitual nature of making coffee in the morning. And the habits that we get. So the one thing that I really liked. So if you've listened to any of our earlier episodes, again, what I don't highly recommend, but our early episodes, we share a lot about our story of like how we came to be, how the podcast started and all the things. And the Free Mama movement was the reason we got started. Yeah. There were a lot of things that were kind of accumulating to get us there, like it's not the word I want.
A culmination.
Thank you. And a culmination of all the things that come together.
And a culmination. A culmination.
Oh, it starts with a C?
Yes.
That's fabulous. Anyway.
Yes,
so,
right?
I have no idea. Anyway, it's leading up to this thing happening and then becoming more formal, but the Free Mama movement was exactly what we started with. One of the things I really liked about the early part of like the things that she wanted you all to achieve within that program was creating new habits. And that's really where the Daily 5 came. But one of the things that she talked about, again, I guarantee you it's not her thing, but it's where we really started focusing and I practiced it myself, which was the idea of adding additional tasks to your day that are tied to already existing habits. And so this is where it was like, if I need to do X, and I have to do it every single day, and I don't do it when I'm supposed to, it's if you tie it to where it's like, so the best example I have is taking medicine. You're terrible at taking medicine.
I'm really bad.
You're no good at it.
Like if I have I'm going to die.
So I have to take medication for high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So I have to take it every day. Like it's a must. I don't get to be like, I forgot. And so I have to take it. So what do? Is I have the pills sit right there next to where I make my coffee.
Yeah.
So I have added that. So it was an easy way to be able to just, I now have, my habit is I make coffee as I'm waiting for it to be made. I cut my pill and then I take my pills. And then that turned into taking all of the supplements that I take. So now it's not something I have to think about. It's just already part of the habits. And I think it was a great way of being able to add those things.
Without adding. It's
without
like, it's
technically
just,
adding anything.
Yeah, it's utilizing your time in a more efficient way.
And definitely those are those things where you'll get on me all the time about the idea of like, well, I don't have time to help do more things. Like if the goal is that I need to do this and I need to go to work and I do this, like I have time. I don't have the time to do more. And the one thing that I realized was like, okay, well, if I'm making coffee, especially if I make the coffee that we just talked about, which is like the immigrant coffee, I have like a 10 to 15 minute window before it's going to be ready. So that's plenty of time to do something. And so that's definitely where I found I don't do it all the time, but it's an easy window where it's like, all right, if there's a shit ton of dishes that sits in the sink, it's right there. So either I'm going to sit and mindlessly scroll on my phone, or I'm like, fuck, I'll set it down. And then I'll do the dishes.
Which is very helpful.
But
I also get angry.
Yes, you have a love-hate relationship with that.
Yeah.
But that's where, so you end up finding like these little windows of time where you can do more, or you can kind of knock some things out. So I'm listening. So now I'm listening to a podcast while I'm doing the dishes, while the coffee's being made, and I've taken medicine, all without really doing anything additional. Just now having these all kind of within, and it's all happening kind of right there in the kitchen. So it's an easy way to be able to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of, all of this talk, especially with like the idea of coffee. So before we go like into where it's like these habits and these things that we do all the time and creating new habits, it's the fact of you talking about like where you're addicted. It's like, so we went camping. The last time we went camping, you did not bring any Crystal Light with you.
Yes.
So I'm usually pretty good about bringing coffee, and I'll have coffee with me, but you don't bring Crystal Light, and it was a problem.
It was not a big problem.
It was a problem.
I made it.
We came back to the house and got some.
Well, not because of that. Not the way you're making it described. Is I had like the itch, and then you
were for sure. Jonesing.
I was jonesing
because
because it broke my habitual routine.
Yes.
We had to come back to the house for the chickens and the cat. I happened to grab some Crystal Light while I was here.
Which was was lucky.
Yes.
It was here. How do you describe, so this morning I go, is that, how's your Crystal Light? It goes, makes my lips numb.
Oh, my tongue numb.
My tongue numb.
Because, okay, so Crystal Light's full of a lot of bad shit.
I imagine.
Yes. It's a problem, and I need to step away from it. I'm not emotionally ready to take that journey yet, but I'm working towards it. I'm going through some shit right now. But, so I need it. But because of, it's what I noticed too about soda and about, because it's pretty much all I drink is water and Crystal Light. And like I said,
yeah,
every once in a while I'll have like a diet soda.
Yeah.
And that's the extent of it. But the aspartame or sucralose or whatever is an artificial sweetener is now starting to heavily affect me. And it's like, it's artificial colors, like red number 4 or whatever it is. So it's like, it's all these terrible things that are in Crystal Light. But
you love it.
But because of because a lot of people are like, oh, diet soda is like worse for you, just drink regular soda. And it's, yes, I understand. Yeah. And I understand the rationale behind it. But with PCO and having the insulin resistance and like, someone else that we were with this weekend had discussed this as well, is like having to go on metformin in order to like try to get pregnant and stuff. And I was on that. And for those of you that don't know, metformin is a drug that they give you for if you're a diabetic to help kind of ward and maintain insulin levels. And I went on it as well when we were trying to get pregnant because I have insulin resistance. So things don't work well. So if I have regular sugar in any way, shape, or form, it is literal death. Like I instantly start, and now because we went keto for a few years, and then lazy keto, and now we're not back to square one, but for sure we indulge 1,000 times more than I ever did before. Like I got really strict with keto, and it's because I was getting really fucked up.
Right, so and you were trying to get pregnant.
And I was trying to get pregnant, and I was having a shit ton of problems. So I was literally down to like organic chicken and vegetables only, and I was still having issues.
Right.
So going keto was like a godsend. I'm like, I could go very strict keto because this is infinitely better than where I was.
Right.
But now if it's like, if I have a piece of cake, or if I have a regular soda, or if I have a candy bar, it's like I instantly feel its effects. And it's bad news bears. Because my body cannot regulate sugar and glucose.
Yeah, and just your why was really strong.
My why was really strong. But anyway, so it's, yes, artificial sweeteners are terrible. I understand the reasoning. But because it is not glucose itself, breaking down, the actual sugar, is that my body can tolerate it better. I still use naturally based sweeteners because a lot of people are like, oh, well, erythritol and all of those, xylitol. No, they're not artificial sweeteners. They are natural sweeteners that are not sucralose and they're not aspartame. And I do use those as well. The problem is that if I was going to make Crystal Light be keto with those naturally based sweeteners, it would be like $12 an ounce, because that's the freaking problem. Is if you like Everly stuff, I like Everly drink mix, which is like a naturally based Crystal Light. I'm going way deep, but it's very expensive,
right?
So
you need your cheap fix.
But I'm working on it. I will ward off. And again, as goofy as it sounds, is it may be in the winter when I naturally sleep for 15 hours a night, and I don't need it as much.
Right. Wake up with like two black eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the summer is I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, because it's light forever, and
that's
then all
what
of a sudden it gets light early.
But I think for most people it's flip flop, because I think most people stay up late regardless.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh well, it's the summer, so they can sleep in. Because it's
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, whether it's teachers or people taking summer vacation. Like, it just seems like summer is just this fuck all for most of humanity, where it's like, this is our downtime to relax and whatever.
I don't know about most of humanity, but certainly the folks that you're engaging with, which a lot of folks are going to be like stay-at-home moms. Yeah. It's like, well, my kid doesn't need to get to the bus or doesn't need to get to school. So now you have a massive adjustment.
Yes, we should talk about this and not talk about the other thing that we're going to talk about, because A, we're way too deep in this right now, but B,
I was already going in another direction, but go for it.
Okay. Is the idea of just, as far as habits go, is I think especially during the summer, like I said, is that a lot of people, it's when they take their breaks. So again, whether you are a teacher and you have the 2-3 months off for the summer, or this is when you take your family vacation or your work from home time or whatever it is I can't tell you how many people I've come across, whether it's I've been at the office and I with patients and I've been chit-chatting with them, or people at baseball or whatever. Everyone at the chiropractor the other day, one of the girls was talking about, she's like, oh God, like the idea of I need a vacation from my vacation.
Oh yeah.
It's because people have very stringent habits, whether they're good habits or bad habits, whether your habit is hitting the snooze button 18 times before you get out of bed, or they're great habits, which is like, no, I wake up promptly and I make my bed and then I work out from 5:02 to 5:34, and like whatever it is, whether it's good or bad, they're habits. Mm-hmm. And vacation is a reason for a lot of people to just screw all the habits and but one thing is, first of all, as we age and are more ingrained in our habits, our bodies get accustomed to certain things. That's why everyone loves to make fun of old people. It's like, oh, the early bird dinner at 4:15 p.m. It's like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
It's because it's like those bastards have learned that it's, if I eat after 7:30 p.m., I get heartburn when I lay down. Or like, I get a stomach. Like, it's very calculated moves. And it's because things change as you age. But I think one of the worst things you can do is just say, screw the world, screw everything I've done for this week or 2 weeks. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Because it sets you back so much when you come back.
Oh, sure. I never even thought about that.
But that's, I've realized that with a lot of people. And whether it's, oh, I was on vacation, so I am so not an angel when it comes to this. I have the same problem where it's like, because it's an excuse, right? It's like, oh, well, you're on vacation. Go ahead and
indulge.
Yeah.
Right.
Indulge in all the things.
Yeah.
Whether it's, I'm going to drink until I pass out, or I'm going to sleep until noon, or I'm going to eat all the cake. Like, but the recovery from those decisions is grave as the further that you deter from your natural habits.
Yeah.
And so, and again, and it could be, nobody ever seems to do it for the good reasons. No one's ever like, okay, I'm on vacation, so the things that I have been putting off, like warding off the caffeine, or trying to build in fitness before I go to work, like before 8 a.m. Like, no one ever does the good things on vacation when they actually would have the time to try it.
Sure.
Everyone just says fuck all and
indulges in like the worst parts of their behavior.
Like Sodom and Gomorrah levels of crazy, it seems to be. That it's, again, but it's, everybody comes back and just, and you can see it. Like, they look like death. They're dragging ass.
Right.
And it's because
They're
whatever they
routine.
did. Yeah. And it doesn't fix things. And I always go back, my brain goes to like Doctor Strange when he's with like the Sorcerer. No, Bruce Banner when he's with Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah. And like she throws down the timeline and she's talking about with the Infinity Stones, like, if you don't put it here, like, this branches into 15 different, like, it just totally screws up everything.
Right.
And it does, but it's our habits matter.
Yeah.
And I think very few people actually take an honest inventory of what they're doing. And again, going back to Free Mama Movement, is that was part of the thing, is kind of, taking an inventory, taking a self-assessment and self-reflection of literally writing down everything that you did that day.
Yeah.
It's like a food journal, but a lot more of a pain in the ass, because it's very much forcing you to be like, oh, instead of writing down that, half a bag of Doritos that I ate that I really don't want to write down, because it's like, well, I only, snacked a few here and snacked a few here, so it doesn't count. It's right. Like, no, I did this thing at this time. Like, there's no arguing around it. But
an honest inventory is the thing that I think a lot of folks struggle with. I know, like, speaking from a business sense, we struggled with what I would say is taking an inventory of kind of like the things that we were trying to, like, what were we trying to achieve? And the things we were trying to do. And so I think it would be a good example of like you said, like the splintering, or like in the show Loki, right? Talks about a lot about like the timeline and the splintering of timelines. When you don't have an honest assessment of the things that you're trying to do, or what your pillars are that make either you personally, of what your personal pillars are, either the business that you work with, what those pillars are. Otherwise, then you kind of just are constantly moving in this splintering motion, which is you're doing a whole lot of work. You're staying very, very busy, but you're not actually making any progress. Because if the goal truly is like to get from point A to point B, and you take on like A1, A2, B3, all of a sudden you're just making progress, but you're splintering so far off of what, like, no, you really need to be going over there.
It needs to be a linear motion.
And that's one of the things I think, so definitely one of the big value adds of the program that we joined with Catherine Jones is kind of building what it is like building a movement towards a particular direction. And she helped us get like hyper focused on what our goals were. So she called it, what she calls is it's an award atlas. And the idea of like, if you think about an atlas, if you try to use the thing that's nice about an atlas back in the day is that it's right. This is the map. It's a very static map of what you're looking at. And it can help you kind of see this big picture. But the one cool thing that she does is that you spend some time where every single quarter we break down what the goals are, and she gives you like major pillars that you want to be focused on, whether it's personally or in your business. But there's a lot of personal pieces. Yeah,
because you are, I don't want to say you are what you do, but you are
for sure. But wherever your energy, and you talked about this, was your energy. Where's your energy going?
Yeah.
And the idea is that when you're on vacation, it's just like you're having a ADD spaz attack.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of just doing all the things all the time, and you're just indulging in everything, and your energy is being expended like in a total explosion outward in all directions.
Yeah.
Opposed to where normally it's like I'm on the path. My energy is moving here. I can get a lot of stuff done. And then you're ready to kind of keep moving on. And where it's just like this bam explosion and you kind of didn't really go all that far and you're just blown out. Like you're just super tired of everything that you were trying to do. And so she helped by giving like 5 major pillars that you want to focus on, only one of which is your business. And so she breaks this down and like she calls it awake work of like, are you awake? Are you focused? Where is your energy at? So she talks about the idea of, so everything she does is going to be an acronym for something, right?
She loves acronyms.
Absolutely. And so, the idea is that you have, right, like W is worship. And, one of the A's is anatomy. So it's like you're focusing on your body. Are you focusing on your community? Are you focused on your relationships with your family? Are you focused on, I think is good. Yeah. And all of these things, like, are you aware of what you want? Right. So where's your awareness at for that day? Like, are you on track? And what it is this habit of constantly assessing. But what's more important is that you set up these goals that are the yearly goal. Like when you achieve, like what's the big picture for these 5 pillars where you decide where your energy wants to go. So you establish, this is the energy I want to go. This is what I want to try and achieve in a year. And then what you do is you break it down. Like, this is what I'm going to reward myself when I can achieve all 5 of these pillars, these 5 pillar goals at the end of that year.
What's our reward?
A major family vacation, I think is set up. Like for a week or 2.
Where? Apparently Disneyland, because Henry.
Yeah, Hank is. Gosh. The Disney Channel is doing its job.
That's where he's like, Mom, he's like, I don't know if you know this, but there's this place called Disneyland, and it looks really fun. And you can go there, and you can see things, and there's rides, and Mickey lives. Like, it's this whole. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Apparently, we're going to Disneyland.
Yeah, so that works. But anyway, so you have the goal, but what's awesome about it is that the idea is that you then set up those yearly things. And so this is like an hour or 2 activity, but you do it one time.
It took a lot of time.
For sure. And I just redid it. And so what we do is like you have this main year goal, but then what you do is you break it down of like, okay, in order to be able to achieve that, what do you want to be able to achieve like on the quarterly level? And then what are the tasks that you need to do in order to get there quarterly? Well, the major tasks that you need to be able to achieve, whatever that goal is for 3 months, is now your monthly goal. And in order to achieve your monthly goal, what are the tasks that you need to do in order to be able to achieve the monthly goal? And now that becomes your weekly goal. And so very quickly you have this thing where you like keep your eyes on the prize, where you constantly are seeing like, what is my goal? What do I want to achieve? But not just in business, right? So it's a piece where like I want us to be able to get to where we have weekly date nights. Right? So I know.
Bless you.
So we want to have weekly date nights. Well, that's not going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. So the reality is that's the goal. So what are the steps that we need to do slowly over time, weekly, monthly, quarterly, to get to the end of the year where that just becomes routine. Yeah. That's a normal thing. So it's this slow burn, but that's to help us be able to come closer. And then what's the business's goal? Mm-hmm. And then what's the goal for worship, right? I have worship goals as well. But the way I've tied in our worship goals is tied to our community specifically. Yeah. Like, how can we do things that are outside of ourselves? What can we do? What are things that we're keeping our eyes on to be able to assist the community be better? Right. Service-based. And you can make them whatever you want. Yeah. But what it ends up doing is that, so every single day you do what's called awake work. So the idea is like, what are those 5 energies that you're focusing on? And you're going to look at, and what you end up doing is through her system, you end up looking at, this is my goal for the month. Am I on track? Here's the goal that I have for this week. Is what you're doing, is the story that you're telling yourself. Like, if you're one of those people that wake up and it's just like, I'm a failure. Yeah. I'm no good at life. I suck because I missed all of my to-do things yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I might as well quit now. You're constantly doing that journaling or that reassessment of being like, no. And so it's like, what's the story you're telling yourself? Is the story that you're telling yourself going to help you achieve what your goal is for this week? This is your goal for this week. What can you do today to help you?
So your argument is that this is how you combat, because my question was going to be, so how do you combat these challenges and like time deterrence and taking you away and habits screwing up? So for you, in order to change habits, is you need to determine the big picture and then break it way down.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Do you advocate for going for the year goal? Same thing, year goal down to the month, down to the week.
You can, but here's what's important is that you do a quarterly assessment or reassessment every quarter. So every 3 months you reassess. Because it's the difference between like...
Because things change.
Yeah, because what's the difference between if you try to use an atlas to help you travel from Virginia to California, or you used Waze, the app Waze? It's significant.
Vastly different.
Right. It's significant. And it's because Waze is getting updated moment by moment by the users. An atlas from 98 is going to be a problem if you're going to try and travel. Yeah. Will you get there? Sure. But could be boy, you're good. More. Like, you could have been a lot more efficient and really decided like, well, we were on this road and this is the road that I chose because this is what the atlas says I needed to do. And little do you know that like, yeah, that road's going to take you there, but they built a highway 12 years ago that will just take you straight there. Yeah. And so that's the difference of like getting that constant feedback all of the time. And that is the equivalent.
Good analogy.
Well, thank you. I actually have that analogy for one of the things of like styles of parenting. So we'll have to bring that in as well. The difference between trying to use an atlas and then trying to be like a Waze parent. But anyway, it's, but that's the purpose of the daily work that you do. And so the tricky part for me was, how can I be taking a daily assessment? Like I saw somebody the other day ask a question and be like, well, I want to dedicate 90 minutes to every single of the energies, every one of those pillars every day. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's your day.
90 minutes. Are you insane? Yeah. Like 90 times 5? Yeah. That's how many minutes you're going to put into this thing? Like, no.
And then go to work.
Like you got to figure out how. And she's like, and I only have between 4 and 6 a.m. I'm like, then you're going to get nothing done. Yeah. What are you talking about? See, that was the tricky part for me, was figuring out how I can quickly do that practice, that daily practice of where am I at? This is the goal. And being able to have things that are like quick that I can take action. So it needed to be, but there's a little piece. And so that was it. So stacking the goal. So when I come down and I sit at this computer, instead of because those things get lost, man. Like if you have Instagram or Facebook, you can get sucked in and get lost quickly.
And every mentor we've ever had, they are like, well, they talk about the idea that it's, being a producer versus a consumer of media. Mm-hmm. But it's like, you put your shit away. You hide your goddamn phone. you close all tabs that are social media related or news related, and it's very purposeful.
And just because you can get lost, so that's where it's like, for me, it's like being diligent enough to where I'm going to sit at the computer and I'm going to do that practice, which is now maximum 10 minutes, that I can do that practice and be like, okay, this is what the goal is. It was for me. It was like, we need to get the podcast needs to be done. Because it helps us. Like, the podcasting is not one of my yearly goals or one of the quarterly goals, but it helps us stay consistent of what we want to be able to do in other pieces of the business. But it has to get tied to a habit. So I know I'm going to sit down at the computer. I know I'm going to do these things. So I have to now, instead of getting lost, now I stay focused of like, this is the first thing that you do. And then I knock it out. And then it's like, oh man, I did that. Like, I got that done. And it's so much bigger. Because now my energy, the same way for you, is like, it's not making the bed is not going to fucking do a thing. It's not.
I know.
But energy wise, it is a energy producer for you. So it's like, can either produce or it's going to suck energy away from you. And so it's like, it's made, bam, I'm ready to go to do the next thing. Now I'm going to go work out. Working out for you is very much a check mark, but that's an energy producer.
Yeah.
Lately, you've been kind of getting thrown off because your neck and your shoulder have been bothering you. So that lately, it's kind of been like, man, like I worked out, but now I'm hurting, and so now that's kind of sucking it away from you. Yeah. But that's where, like, we all have these things of like where that energy goes. So what have I found of having this focus? So like, I did this recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we completely did a reassessment for the next 3 months of what we were doing. Just because we had been so busy with things that we were doing. And this is where kind of I started this whole conversation. Yeah.
Summer takes a lot of the energy.
And we planned for it, but it still is a ton of work because we also added more things, which we knew we were going to do. But either way, it sucks a lot of energy out because you're kind of giving a lot to a particular area. So for us right now, it's a lot of community. So a lot of community stuff. So we're participating with all the different sports, and the kids are getting ready to go to school, and we're doing events, and we're around people. Like, there's a lot of those things that are taking a lot of the energy.
It's exhausting.
Right. Because you don't have limitless energy.
No.
And so you have, like, your battery gets charged up. So you have to decide, where is that energy going to go? So if you like crank it up and redline in, all of your energy is dedicated towards the community, it can't be that you're going to beat yourself up when it's like, I don't have enough energy for a relationship with my spouse. It's like, that's the trade-off. Yeah. Like, that's where you figure out. And it's like, okay, where can I be then properly spreading? Because one of the great things that she has that's every day, it's called like an armchair session. And this is what's like next level things, like Bullet Journal talked about it. And so all these journaling things talk about.
Have to like add all these in.
Yeah, but it's like, it was really, we can put, that is a decent idea. We'll drop in some links to some of these things so you can see what we're talking about. But it's like, it's the assessment part of the journaling that's like one of the most beneficial. It's being able to go back and be like, did you cross off your list of items that day? Yeah. An honest assessment with yourself, taking those items that you didn't get for your daily 5 and then moving them over. So now you have that already for the next day. But doing that assessment, so the armchair session of where did you dedicate most of your energy today? And like, why was that? Where did you dedicate the least amount of your energy today? Why was that? What can you do to make it to where your least productive column is your most productive tomorrow? Yeah. And what's the first action you can take to do that?
Everything stays balanced.
Just so you don't have day after day after day after day where you're neglecting this major
I think that's most people's problem too, is they want to change their habits. So whether it's like, I want to start working out. I'm going to work out. And it becomes the entire focus, and they negate everything else. And that's why it doesn't ever stick as a habit.
Right.
Is because you're gung-ho in the beginning. As a hygienist, I always equate it to flossing. Because it's everybody. It's when I have a patient and we're done, I can give them the pep talk about flossing and how to better, implement the habit and do all these things. And everybody's gung-ho right when they leave. And then 6 months later when I see him, it's like, well, I was really good and then blank.
Yeah.
And it's that idea, I think, that people try to just add. So it's like, I'm going to do this thing, and that's where all their energy goes and negates everything else that they've ever done until, like, your cup overflows in the one respect, and then you're totally screwed.
Flossing is a great example for me, is that it's as soon as I stopped commuting to work, my flossing habit went to shit.
But I use you as an example all the time with my patients. I'm like, my husband got to the point, because the main thing, so I will give the chit chat that I give to all my patients, is everybody hates flossing. Nobody wants to do it. Brushing your teeth for 2 minutes alone, standing in front of a mirror, is a giant pain in the ass, because 2 minutes is an eternity when you're staring at yourself in the mirror.
Right.
So for me, it's if you can get to the point where you're brushing twice a day and that becomes the norm, but flossing is like absolutely not, because everybody hates it, is do it outside of the bathroom. So it's keep floss, whether it's string floss or floss picks or interdental cleaners, whatever you want to use. You keep them by the nightstand. You keep them by the coffee table and the TV. You keep them in the car, in the little pocket thing in the door in the car. And I would use you all as an example, where just as soon as my husband would get in the car, it became just a non-conscious thing where he would reach down, grab a flosser, and he's not looking in the rearview mirror doing one of these numbers, back and forth. But it's, he grabs the floss pick, he's driving, and he's flossing while he's driving. If you can floss while you're distracted doing something else. So like at night, which is I'm getting in bed, if you read a book or you watch TV or you're on a tablet or computer, you're doing that while flossing, and it will become subconscious.
Yeah.
Where it will just become what you do as a regular thing. And for sure, that's what happened with you with flossing, is you're driving to work, you grab your flosser, you're flossing every day.
Right.
Because it's not, it's a little bit like for you of, I am now doing the dishes and watching a podcast and taking my pill all while waiting for my coffee. It's not about adding all those things. It's just about utilizing your time better.
Right. And
people that can implement, whether it's flossing or anything else, when you're doing something, like it's not multitasking as much as it is just like, it's a more efficient way of spending your time.
It's just like what I call it, task stacking.
Yes.
So you're just kind of stacking. It's like, I have a task, and within this task, I can stack a lot of other items that doesn't take away from my energy, because I know I successfully did a lot of those things, but that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like you said, it starts with just add the floss.
Yeah.
And this is where for me, so I just need to find a way for the floss bag of picks to be somewhere where I am consistent. So it would be great to have one like here at the desk. Now, I haven't done that yet.
Or as a hygienist, I have to advocate for, everybody has heard of a water pick, but it's the same idea.
Right.
This is total side note. But there's a thing, if you haven't heard of it, because I advocated for all my patients, called shower floss, where most people tend to shower more frequently than they floss.
Sure.
So while you're taking a shower, there is it's like $30 you can buy on Amazon, because a water pick's a lot more expensive because it runs off a motor and it requires you to sit in front of the mirror for extra time brushing, and it makes a giant mess. This doesn't use a motor. You unscrew your shower head, you screw it on, you take your shower. Once you are done in the shower, whatever, you just flip the switch, the water pressure from the shower goes down the hose, and you can water pick in the shower.
Yeah.
No mess, takes about a minute to do, and it's that efficient time or task stacking because you're already showering.
Yeah.
It's no extra time.
Yeah.
Sorry. Showerfloss.com.
There you go.
It's life-changing for those of you that don't floss. Please floss.
And don't let perfection is the enemy of good, or the enemy of done, right? So this idea where a lot of folks get caught up where it's like, but like,
analysis paralysis,
right?
Or why they can't.
And the worst part is, are people being like, yeah, but those floss picks, they're not good for you. Like, the best way to floss is with like string floss. It's like, go fuck yourself.
Yes.
The goal here is to start with doing. Yes. Then perfect as you go. Yes. And then you can kind of work your way up. But if the barrier of entry is just doing, you just got to start doing.
Lauren Golden talks about this. I'm going to screw up her quote, but it's like,
good enough is enough or something like that, where it's just like it is gonna be far, because as you talk about too, of like doing those assessments every week or every month or every quarter, it's the reason that you do a whole nother assessment is because things change.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like what your idea of perfect is now is going to evolve. As you learn more and as you do more, it's going to open new avenues of thought and knowledge and all these things. It's the idea of asking, which is so stupid. Gosh, with the schools, with the elementary kids, it's like asking them what do you want to be when you grow up, and then like having a targeted career path toward that thing. It's in what universe? Because if you ask Henry what he wants to be when he gets older, he is dead ass on like, I want to be the best superhero in the history of the world, and it's because for him, like, that is like a linear trajectory, legit path in his mind. That it's just, I keep being a badass 4-year-old and then I will grow up to be a badass superhero.
And the problem is that adults just have lost all creativity, because you can totally take a kid that wants to be a superhero and be like, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, we got this.
Yes. But my point is that it's, if you don't take those continual self-assessments and like reevaluate where you're at, like as he ages, like anybody ages, is he's going to learn that, you know, like, I don't want to say like a Batman isn't real or whatever. Like he's going to evolve in that thinking. And if he still desires to be a superhero when he's 22, or like from Step Brothers, where it's like, I wanted to be a dinosaur. And
but the fact is, like, so take the superhero example all the way through. It's if somebody wants to be a superhero, it's they want to have powers, right? They want to be strong, right? And ultimately, superheroes are saving people. Yeah. So it's like, you easily
be a fireman, be a cop,
right? But that's where they eventually make that connection. For adults, and it was for me with coaches were this way all the time as well, where I hated seeing it. Was like, it's not my job to tell you that you're not going to go play for LSU. Yeah. Like, you're too small, you're too slow, you're too whatever. But I had so many coaches that were like, you'll never go play at the next level. Mm-hmm. You're too small and you're too slow. Like, you'll never do it. And for me, it was like, okay, well, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm going to show you that I can. Yeah. And I don't know if that's necessarily was their goal. I think they were just salty fucks that didn't get the chance to be able to go play like D1 ball. Right. So it was just like, no, you're not going to do that. Yeah. I don't think it was like, oh, I'm going to motivate this kid by telling him no through reverse psychology. I think too many adults feel like they have to insert themselves in destroying dreams. Yeah. And it's like, kids figure things out. Like, it's like, okay, then what we're going to do is, this is what you need to do. Yeah. So this is the bar. So if you want to be a superhero, then this is the bar. This is the goal. And eventually it's going to be like, okay, I've now been bit by spiders several times. I don't have any powers yet.
Been exposed to gamma radiation.
Right. Like, I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do.
I have undergone.
I'm just very sick
government
now.
Experimentation.
Right. And I have no superpowers. Yeah. But if it's their training, because like, dude, you got to be able to like carry an adult while swinging on your web. That's going to be heavy. So like, the average person now is like 215 pounds. So you need to be able to carry that. So it's like, awesome. So now we get you physically fit. We got you here, got you here, got you here. Eventually they're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to be a firefighter.
Yeah. Or I'm going to be, yeah, no, I get it. But again, it's that I think his aspirations are so not unique. Every little boy thinks that they're going to be Batman or Spider-Man or whatever, and then they end up being like an accountant. Like, it's.
But the problem is that for me, it's like they become an accountant, or they work at the factory, or they work or whatever. Where school, I'm not going to get caught in this, but the reality is that school's job, public schooling, is not built to be able to allow people to creatively make the most of themselves. It's built to make you a cog and another wheel in the machine, so that folks that are wealthy and have been in a higher perch and higher status continue to stay that way, while you have a middle class of society that's able to just keep the status quo.
That's the synopsis of our next podcast. We have because that's what we were going to talk about today. was this idea of schools, but we will delve into
No, but that's where that's the biggest shame, because if you look at the people that have been the biggest movers and shakers and difference makers in our universe right now, they all dropped out.
Yeah.
All of them. They dropped out of school. Sometimes they dropped out of high school. They didn't even graduate high school. And there's a ton of examples. And they're the most creative. There are your creatives that were told that they were stupid or they were slow. They were dyslexic. They had different disabilities, whatever it was, and they were never going to amount to anything. And they're some of like the biggest, baddest baddies that exist. And there's a reason for that.
No.
And so, but I agree with you overall. It's just this idea of goals and goal setting and constant evaluation.
I was going to say, yeah, that it seems to be that if you want to implement new habits, is that it's not just like, okay, I'm going to sit down today and I'm going to write my goals and then we're going to work step by step on achieving that. Is the self-assessment and the self-reflection. Like it's a lot of
it's a ton of like inner demons and dealing with that
because
shit.
It's determining and it's brute honesty, and I think that's what it is because I think we all have aspirations to be a certain way, and we may perceive ourselves to be a certain way, but our actions do not align.
For sure.
And it's taking an honest look at what we are doing, and if there's things that you don't like about how you can change that and how you can build habits that work. And again, about the energy of just going back to the vacation idea is, if you have an honest projection of yourself and with doing this awake stuff and this alert stuff and this business and just becoming older and through experiences as I'm becoming more solidified in who I am.
Yeah.
Not necessarily apologetically. I'm still very shy and introverted, and people don't see who I really am very often. But I am starting to double down more on, I don't care. This is who I am.
Right.
I am introverted. No, I don't want to come to your house and drink wine, because that terrifies me. Like I will pretend to a degree, but it's just, no, I am who I am. And it's taken a lot of self-reflection to get to that point.
Yeah.
But if you're going on vacation, rather than just having I am just going to completely pull the lid off and just go ape shit, but then go back to my regular life, like that's not, that's never going to work. But it takes a lot of that self-reflection to get to the point. And I'm not saying like you need to do transcendental meditation for 3 months before you go on vacation to determine who you are.
Right.
But we are now at the point, like we go on vacation, we don't just say fuck all and go crazy. We are still getting up at the same time.
Right.
We still do some element of work or podcasting. We will indulge in certain respects, but we don't deter heavily from the way that we normally eat. We don't do things that are completely out of the ordinary and expect us to return to quote unquote regular life within the following week. It's adapting. I think vacation's a great time to try new things and to do new things.
Right. And
whether that vacation again is like a week in the Bahamas or a couple months where it's I finally have, or the goddamn pandemic when you're stuck at home. It's you finally have time that you have told yourself that you have not had.
Right.
In previous. So it's now you have the time. Try to find a way to make that time work for something that will align you further to your goal.
Right.
As opposed to just, I hate my life so much, I'm going to do the opposite of what I've done, but then go back to what I've always done next week.
Well, because I think that's a lot of where like I hate my life and depression comes from, is that it's a misalignment of energy, expectations, and then those actions.
It's deep. It's deep shit. It's like some Buddhist shit.
Thanks, man. Yeah, because I think it's where a lot of folks, where it's like you said, I have a vision of who I am, and I have a vision of what I want. but my actions and what's happening around me don't line up. They're not simpatico. And I think that constant state of depression, that's where that comes from, where it's like, this sucks. And so that's where,
and you can't change all the things right now.
Right. Like and you're going to disagree with this, but it's going to be, if someone does drugs and they partake in recreational drugs, that's fine. That's their choice. The difference is why they do them. That's what truly matters. Is that it's like, if your life sucks so bad that you have to escape from it,
that's a problem.
That's where that misalignment is. If you do it because it's like, you know what, I like to get high every now and again, or I like to do this and it's part of my, like, whatever it is. And that's
that, I don't have to disagree with that.
But for me, but that's also like for alcohol. It's like, I like the taste of this alcohol, or whatever it is, like whatever your reasoning is for doing it. It's a big difference of like, this sucks and I need to escape.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, that's dangerous, because now what you're doing is you're tricking your body into thinking
that it's done something.
That it's done something.
Or that it's made it better.
Its state. And the idea is that you want to change your state through action, not through something you drink or something you eat. And it can be done with cake as well. It's like, I'm depressed that this is the way my life goes, so I'm going to eat a shit ton of ice cream because then I feel better after doing that. And then your body's like, oh, okay, well then, like, you've got all those endorphins. And the dangerous part
is it absolutely fucking works. That's what's dangerous.
For sure.
But those same endorphins can get released through action.
Through checking off your list and staying on point and on focus.
Making the goddamn bed.
Making the bed. And it's those things that you can successfully do. And so for me, it's because then what ends up happening is when your energy is aligned with what you want and you start feeling good about yourself and you're working towards that goal and doing that constant assessment, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. From the outside, it's going to look like, man, you really got all your shit together. And the idea is like, no, I'm hanging on by a thread like everybody else. The difference is that I know what I want, and the wheels aren't going to come off, and I'm not going to get diverted from where I want to go, because like, I really want to go do this thing.
And that you take the time, you've really taken the time to have that self-assessment and determine where you're going, as opposed to just, I want this and I'll get there, but I'm going to go this way and I'm going to go this way and I'm going to go this way. It's just, I don't like the idea ever that like things are just linear, that it takes A to get to B.
Yeah.
Because that's very rarely the way life works.
Well, it's certainly not. You need to go from A to B, but the path is not always going to be straight.
Yes. But I think for most people is, again, it's that just knowing who you are from an honest perspective and what you want from an honest perspective.
And a lot of times, and what we have found is that folks need help. And so that's oftentimes you need help. You need an accountability buddy, right? You need somebody that's there with you. They know what your goals are. They're kind of there with you along the way. It's one of the things that we ended up finding, having worked with several people. Yeah. And then like we had two different styles of work that we've done with people. We've done work with people where it's like they tell us what they want to do, and then we can tell them whether we can do it and go from there. And then other people that say, I want to do this,
but I have no idea how to get there.
And we just say, well, instead is like, I'm all for what your goal is, what you want to achieve. The way we do this proper is we take a full assessment of where you're at, take a look at all the things that you're doing right now, and then we work towards that goal. But there's no way of knowing, like you think that that's your goal right now. But unless you've done a full assessment of everything and you've looked at all the pieces, that goal may not be what's best for you right at this moment. And really what you do is you have like this, the work we did before we started doing these assessments with people and the work that we did after. And it's night and day of who was successful and who wasn't. It didn't change what people spent. People still spent money, which is crazy. They still spend the money for us to work with them. But if it's not in sequence and it doesn't make sense, that's where things cause a lot of problems. Yeah. And that's where a big thing that we're doing lately is, as we continue to stay focused on what we're doing in our business, it allows us to be way more razor sharp with the folks that we're working with. So it
translates because your energy doesn't get depleted.
Exactly. And you now see people be able to benefit from something similar, where it's like, now I can get all my stuff organized and now I can move, because most people, especially the folks that we either work with, so we work with gym owners, and we find that most of these gym owners, they have all the pieces that they need. Mm-hmm. They've been sold lots of stuff over the years. They've been pushed in a particular direction. But what we find is that they now have just a huge bag of toys. They have all of these things available to them, but there's no proper order in how they're executing those things. Mm-hmm. So they just have tons of energy just going all over the place. And a lot of times the gym owners, they're either just them or a couple other coaches like Max that are all trying to do all of these things. And what they find quickly is that their energy is terribly depleted.
Yeah. Because they're hanging on by a thread.
And they're just barely getting it. So it's like, man, let's just take what you have. Let's bottle it. Let's organize it. Let's set it in a system that makes sense and watch how everything starts to align, where it's going to cause people from the outside to be like, what are they doing? Right. It's like, all we've done is just put those pieces in the right order.
It's flossing while driving.
Right.
It's doing the dishes while making the coffee. It's utilizing the time more efficiently. And because your energy doesn't get depleted, then you continue to have that evolution, because it's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is if you're hungry, you're never going to have time to like reflect on, where am I in my environment? What is my purpose? Are we happy? Are we moving forward? Because it's just, you're worried about survival.
Yeah.
And I think that once you get the pieces aligned and your energy doesn't get taken from you, you continually have that ability to move forward and then have those self-reflections on, okay, I've made it here. I've met my goal in this respect. Where do we go from here? Where else do I need to evolve? And that's I think how habits change and how like the good shit happens.
Yeah. And the stuff that is aligned with what you want to do. Because the problem is distractions won't end. And this is what can stop us from like, we really need a pool like in the backyard right now. And it's like, no, we don't. No, we don't.
Well, we suffer from that greatly.
We really need a car. Like, and we really need this.
Well, and it's what we've always done in terms of like with moving. So it's, I think my parents eventually within the next couple of years are going to end up moving to the Waynesboro area as well, which is exciting. But it's always like, for them, it's always been like, we're not following you because you idiots change your mind and move like all the time. And we were going to go to Europe,
right,
which was like devastating for them. And I understand that respect, but we have now solidified, and it's what we've told them for a while now, it's just, no, we're not going to leave this area. It's because we were always chasing opportunity or always forcing the will upon something. So it's like we would get distracted of just shiny object over here.
Right.
And we want it real bad. So we're going to do everything in our power and our energy to just go after that one thing. And then we would look back and be like, you know, in retrospect, so if like we're taking Europe as an example, it would have been a very unique experience. It would have been great for the kids to get out and see another culture and have, you know, it would have been a life experience. But retrospectively, if we would have done it, it would have been bad, and would have been bad for a lot of reasons. But ultimately, it was a distraction. And as we have fine-tuned who we are as a couple, as a business, as a family, as all these things, is that ultimately didn't align with what our goals are now.
Right.
But it's because we've had that ability, again, to self-reflect and to take the time to just fine-tune and like go deep down the hole of who we are and what we want.
Right. And stop assuming that what you're doing now is the only way to do it.
Yeah. And that's why it's just the pool. The pool has been a giant pain in the ass for us for the last month, because like shit is broken and this doesn't work. So like we need a pool. We have to have a pool. It's summer. Where do we need to put inside? And then the other day, because we were in an argument about it, is we sat down and ultimately came to like, this is not necessary right now.
Right.
There's only so many funds and so much time and so much energy, and we're focusing it all on something that ultimately...
It's like we could do that.
Yeah, but it's not what we really need right now.
Right.
And so it's just, it's interesting how just the stinking awake concept from Catherine, like, translates among... It becomes, as you... And you're a hell of a lot better at it than me. Because of bullet journaling, because of the fact that you literally have about 782 balls in the air that you have to juggle at all times, is you are a lot more fine-tuned on being able to articulate and prioritize what needs to be done right now, and how do I still manage the other 781 balls without letting them fall. And like, you're very good. I'm type A, and I'm organized, and I'm goal-oriented, and I'm a planner, but I can become very distracted very easily on one thing, which is just like, this room has not been dusted in a millennium, and that is the most important thing right now, is that I dust this room because I see it, like, and it's just this, we have to...
You got other things.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You have to go to the doctor, Amy. You have your appointments in 10 minutes. Right. And it's just, it's as goofy as it is you, because of your study of these practices and because of you delving into these circles, is it changes everything you do.
Yeah. Yeah, it shifts the mindset. And I think but this, like you said, it's just do. Just start it. Start something. Build a habit. Start
flossing.
Don't
let that one thing don't let flossing become the most important thing in every aspect of your life. Right. Don't let working out become, because you will falter.
Yeah, right. And you just have and you have just that honest assessment of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
If this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I know why it didn't happen, and this is how I can adjust it.
Yeah,
but there's some days where it's like, I failed in this area, or I wasn't successful in this area today.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Why did it happen? Well, because I put a lot more time over here on the community side, and I didn't have time to do this. Yeah. But that's okay. How am I going to fix it? This is how I can fix it. It's kind of like giving yourself, Catherine calls it grace, right? Giving yourself grace, or giving yourself just like, it's okay.
Because you're not going to do it right.
Not every time. No. And
most of the time.
And that's part of it.
Especially as you're learning.
Right. And that's part of the system, is that you have to be able to just have a daily reflect on what you're doing, and then realizing it's like, that's all right. You just move it on. Yeah. Because, and guess what? Some of the things you don't get to, especially this is part of like the bullet journal process, is that it's, if you at the end of the month go back through your pages and you realize that there were some tasks that were on your list that never got done. Well, if it was due, January, if it was due July 3rd and it's now August 4th, and it didn't get done.
Oops.
Well, was it actually important?
Yeah.
It was important that day you put it in the book. But if it didn't get done, and it wasn't catastrophic that it didn't get done, then it probably wasn't a priority. Yeah. And it probably isn't a priority. So that probably shouldn't pop up on your list. Now, if you didn't pay your credit card bill, it's a separate problem. Yeah. Now it's like, fuck. Yeah. I got to go do this.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, all right, I got to remember, like, this has to be like, it's different. And that's where it's like, it's okay for certain things. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, I have to dust. It's like, I mean, yes, you do, but is that a priority right at this moment? No. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, well, I do have to dust. And it's like, okay, well, we do need to get the oil in the car changed. Like, okay, like we have to go do that. So just build that into the system. The 15th of every month. Now you go get the car oil changed. And now, like, oh, that's my task for today. Like, I know this is one of my things I need to get done today. It doesn't all of a sudden become like another thing, like you said, adding for the sake of adding. So lots of ideas, lots of tips and tricks of things you can do.
I'm still not ready to stop Crystal Light, but
no,
I'm going to think about it a lot more.
You should.
I'm going to work on it. I'm going to build it in. But I want waffles now, though. Can we go get waffles?
Yes. Let's go make some waffles.
Thank you.